The wind has no name out here. It slides like breathless whispers across the black water, curling through the sails of forgotten ships and brushing the bones of time itself. No clocks tick in this place, only the slow sway of waves and the creaking of wood, long resigned to the sea. The moon hangs swollen and indifferent above a pale watching eye in a sky that forgot how to dawn. And beneath it, far from land and rules and warm kitchens, a vessel drifts, unhurried, unseen. Tonight, we'll drift with it. And you, dear traveler, have already arrived. You don't remember how. You don't remember when. But your eyes open to the salty sting of sea air and a floor that rocks gently beneath your back like an uneasy cradle. The boards are damp. The air is thick with the smell of tar, wet rope, and old sweat. A rat scurries somewhere behind you, quick feet on hollow wood. Your wrists itch. You lift your hands bound, not tight, but firm, like someone wanted to make sure you stayed here wherever here is. Your mouth tastes of iron and old salt. You hear groaning, not human, just the ship itself alive in its endless ache. The flicker of a lantern casts strange shadows on the hull. Your shirt is rough linen, damp. There's sand crusted near your ankle. One boot is missing. You try to sit up. A barrel shifts behind you. A rope swings slowly overhead, heavy as sleep. And now you wonder, were you taken? Caught stealing a loaf of bread? Did you owe the wrong man too much money in a quiet coastal town? Were you drunk in the wrong tavern and woke up with a headache and the scent of salt water? You don't know. The reason doesn't matter anymore. Because now you're here. Just another deckhand without a name. Just another warm body to hoist sails and scrub blood from planks. No one will call you captain. No one will even ask your story. You're a number, a shadow. You'll sleep on ropes and eat with your fingers, but not yet. First, you rest. If this strange little journey helps you sleep tonight or brings you even a moment of calm, consider pressing the like button or gently tapping subscribe. I make these for people like you, people wide awake at 3 a.m. for reasons that don't need explaining. Where are you tonight? Is it cold where you are? Are you under a blanket, sitting on the edge of your bed, headphones and lights off? Whether you're in a quiet apartment in Dallas, a noisy dorm room in Mumbai, or curled up in a camper just outside Yosemite, you're not alone. You're here with us now, gently rocking on an imaginary sea, letting the water pull the weight from your thoughts. If it helps, turn off the lights now. Maybe put on a fan or let a little breeze in. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw go slack. There's nothing you need to do, nothing to fix. Let's leave the world behind for a little while and begin tonight's journey aboard a ship where the rum is warm, the hammocks are torn, and if you're not the captain, well, let's just say you'll learn quickly where not to step. Wake up with salt in your hair. Hey guys, tonight we drift far from the sound of traffic and the glow of phone screens. Tonight we're rocking gently on the open sea, aboard a creaking wooden ship where the air is thick with brine and the only alarm clock is a seagull with attitude. You've joined a pirate crew, not as captain, not as the quartermaster, not even as the guy with the fancy feathered hat. No, you're somewhere near the bottom of the ladder, swaying in a hammock that smells suspiciously like pickled herring and regret. And between you and me, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I'd love to imagine where we're dreaming together tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the heat, not the warm and toasty kind. This is the heavy breath on your neck, stuck in a sock drawer kind of heat, the kind that turns dreams into damp hallucinations and makes every part of your body feel like it's been boiled just long enough to lose structural integrity. You're lying in your hammock, curled like an overripe banana, your legs dangling off the edge, because the person who installed it was either much shorter than you or held a personal grudge. The fabric beneath you is coarse, scratchy, and still wet from last night's storm, or possibly someone else's sweat. You try not to think about it. Your hair is stiff with salt. It crackles when you move, like wind-dried seaweed. Your skin itches in places you can't reach without risking a fall, and your back makes a sound that shouldn't exist in nature as you attempt to sit up. Above you, the hull creaks. Below you, the ship rolls. Beside you, someone is snoring, loudly, wetly, as if they're auditioning for the role of dying walrus in a low-budget ocean opera. You don't know what time it is. There are no clocks here. Time is measured in shifts and storms, in biscuit rations and the angle of the sun. But judging by the pale blue light leaking through the hatch and the way your stomach is already issuing formal breakfast, demands it's probably just past dawn. The smell in the hold is layered. Salt, of course. That's always there. But also mildew, old wood, sweat-damp rope, and the faintly sour tang of whatever someone spilled 2 weeks ago that still hasn't been cleaned. A bottle of something. Or someone's lunch. Hard to say. You roll out of the hammock with the grace of a collapsing sail. Your bare feet slap the damp wood. A rat watches you from under a barrel. You nod. It doesn't nod back. This is life now. Historians still argue whether pirate life was more democratic utopia or floating chaos. Some point to written pirate codes with surprisingly egalitarian rules, votes, shares of treasure, even compensation for lost limbs. Others suggest those ideals quickly drowned under the weight of desperation, boredom, and that one guy who always tried to take more than his share of the rum. You duck your head as you shuffle toward the ladder. Someone mutters a curse in a language you don't know, but the tone is universal. Morning sucks. You climb up and into blinding light. The sky is too bright. The sea stretches out endlessly, the kind of blue poets ruin with metaphors. You blink. You squint. You realize you forgot your shirt again. The deck is already alive. Rope coils move like snakes. Sails flap overhead like impatient wings. The captain barks something unintelligible from the quarterdeck. A gull squawks directly into your soul. A crewmate shoves a mop into your hand. Your turn. No good morning. No. How did you sleep? Just mop. Deck. Now. You sigh and begin your day the same way you always do, scrubbing the sins of yesterday off the wood beneath your feet, while trying not to think about what exactly those stains are. This is not a story about treasure. Not really. This is a story about hammocks that swing too hard, about salt that never leaves your clothes, and about how a normal day on a pirate ship can feel like a week in a particularly rude sauna. Welcome aboard. Scrubbing the deck is not a metaphor. You're on your knees again. Not because you're praying, unless the whispered curses you mutter toward the bucket count as some form of low-stakes spiritual warfare. No, this is just how mornings begin here, with a mop in your hands and seawater sloshing under your knees, scrubbing planks like your dignity's at stake, because it is. Scrubbing the deck isn't some romantic notion of pirate cleanliness or a dramatic punishment you've earned by slighting the captain's parrot. It's maintenance. Real, boring, back-breaking maintenance. The sea is salty, yes, but it's also sticky, messy, and weirdly generous with fish parts you never asked for. Every hour, the deck collects a new crust of bird droppings, fish scales, ale dribbles, boot grease, rat mischief, and something vaguely organic that you're hoping is just spoiled biscuit dough. And someone has to clean it. Spoiler, it's you. The mop is older than most of the crew. The bristles are frayed, the handle warped, and every third swipe feels like a personal insult. You dip it into a wooden bucket filled with brine because, yes, you clean a salty floor with more salt. The logic escapes you, but you do it anyway. Historians still debate whether this routine was done daily, but there's growing agreement that it was often enough to matter and neglected just often enough to be regrettable. A slick deck could mean a broken ankle or a dead crewmate. And while pirates weren't known for their OSHA compliance, they did like standing upright. You work in silence, save for the soft slosh of your bucket and the occasional grunt of someone tripping over a coil of rope. The sun is already warm, too warm. Your shirt clings to your back like an unwelcome hug, and the salt crust in your scalp has begun to itch with the precision of a mosquito orchestra. You scrub a patch of deck that appears stained beyond redemption. Someone spilled tar here, or maybe it's just where bad moods go to ferment. You scrub harder. Across the way, a crewman with arms the size of barrels tosses a barrel of actual tar into place. He doesn't look at you, but his shadow does. A seagull lands beside you with the air of someone arriving late to a conversation they intend to dominate. It eyes your mop, then your bucket, then you. You stare back. It poops. You don't cry. You just add it to the list. Scrub. dip, repeat. This is the real rhythm of life at sea. Not cannon fire, not treasure maps. Just you, the deck, and whatever new insult the ocean delivers overnight. There's a joke told among sailors that the most important tool on a pirate ship isn't the cutlass, it's the brush. The blade may win battles, but the mop wins peace. Keeps mold from eating the hull, keeps crew from slipping into the next life, keeps you just busy enough not to mutiny before lunch. Someone starts humming a sea shanty, off-key and bold. You join in around verse 2, because rhythm helps. Soon the whole deck echoes with the sound of grown adults singing about mermaids with questionable morals and captains with questionable hygiene. You scrub a little easier, not better, but easier. You catch sight of your reflection in the water pooled beside the scuppers. Your face is flushed, hair wild, eyes bleary. You look like someone who's been through things, and breakfast hasn't even happened yet. Still, there's something grounding about the repetition. Scrub, dip, swear, sing, squint at the sun, swat at flies, repeat. You think about the life you might have had on land, maybe plowing fields, maybe emptying chamber pots, maybe, actually this isn't so bad. One of the older pirates limps by, eyes twinkling beneath a brow weathered like driftwood. He sees your grimy mop, your soaked knees, your squint of mild despair. He grins. You missed a spot. You throw the mop water at his boots. He just laughs and keeps walking. Later, when your arms are sore and your knees feel like they've been sanded by accident, you'll finish. The deck will gleam. Not perfectly, not for long, but just enough. And you'll know strangely that you did something, not glorious, not exciting, but essential. Because life on a pirate ship isn't all buried gold and bottle fights. It's mostly this, the unremarkable moments in between, and if you can handle them, you're probably tougher than you think. Scrub, dip, rise, time for breakfast. Biscuit weevil, repeat. Your breakfast is technically food if you don't mind sharing it with bugs that have more protein than the biscuit itself. You sit cross-legged on a crate, chewing slowly, very slowly, because this biscuit is less food and more geological event. It takes effort to bite through it. You do finally with a cracking sound that turns heads. The inside is dry and chalky, and ah yes, there's your old friend, a weevil, tiny, wriggling, delighted to see you again. You brush it off more out of habit than offense. Everyone knows the biscuits are crawling with them. It's sort of a rite of passage. Some of the more philosophical crew members say it adds protein. Others claim it builds character. One guy insists the crunch improves texture. You're not convinced, but you eat it anyway. This is breakfast. There's no omelet station here, no buffet, just ship's biscuit, maybe some hard cheese if you're lucky, and sometimes a scoop of what's optimistically called stew, which could contain fish, beans, rat, or memory, depending on who cooked and how long it's been simmering. You chew and chew and chew. The horizon sways gently in the background, the ship groaning like a man with bad knees. Seagulls wheel overhead, bold and shrieking, always on the lookout for dropped crumbs or unattended fingers. Your water ration today tastes like copper coins left in a sock drawer. You drink it anyway. Hydration is hydration. Someone passes by holding a bowl of something that smells suspiciously like boiled boots. You envy them. Across the deck, a man named Hal burps and declares he saw a mermaid in his stew. He laughs until he coughs, then just coughs. Historians still argue whether pirates ate better or worse than naval sailors. On one hand, they weren't bound by strict rations. On the other, they were often broke and reliant on what they could steal or preserve. Some ships managed to supplement with fresh catches, fish turtles, the occasional unlucky bird. Others limped along on salt beef and hope. Your ship, somewhere in the middle. You remember yesterday's dinner, a stew so thick it resisted the spoon like it had legal objections. Still, it was warm, and warm counts for something. This morning's biscuit, less so. It's dry enough to make your mouth feel like a linen drawer in a desert. You suck on the edge of your water flask and try not to imagine it growing legs and walking off. Again, pirates weren't known for their table manners. Breakfasts were eaten, crouched on barrels, leaned against masts, or just standing half awake, chewing like cows with commitment issues. You try to savor it, you fail. A crewmate sits beside you, already gnawing on a biscuit edge. He taps it against the deck. Testing structural integrity, he says. It doesn't break. That's a good one. You nod solemnly. One day they'll use these to build houses or throw at invaders. You spot the cook nickname Guts, which does not inspire confidence, hauling a pot toward the lower deck. It sloshes ominously. You suspect lunch is already in motion, or fermentation. You glance down at the last corner of your biscuit. It's slightly green. You eat it anyway. The sun climbs. A breeze rolls in cool and fishy, but still better than the stale air below deck. Your stomach makes a sound like a warning bell. It'll get over it. Food on a pirate ship wasn't about joy. It was about survival. There were no picky eaters here, only the quick, the hungry, and the quietly desperate. Still, every now and then, you get lucky. A fish caught fresh off the side, a stolen cask of pickled onions. Once a crate of lemons changed the crew's whole attitude for a week. Everyone smiled. No one punched anyone. Gums stopped bleeding. Historians note that scurvy was a very real threat. Pirates, despite popular belief, understood this and often tried to prevent it, though not always successfully. Some carried citrus. Others fermented anything vaguely green. You once drank something called swamp water. It did not cure scurvy, but it did kill all your intestinal secrets. You stand, biscuit gone, hunger mostly quieted. You stretch, bones crackle. The day's about to begin in earnest, and while scrubbing the deck was bad, whatever comes next may involve sails shouting, And possibly that rope again, the one you burned your palms on last week while pretending you totally knew what you were doing. You breathe in the sea air. You cough a little. Breakfast is done, and you are once again just a hungry shape on a floating box of wood waiting for orders. At least, you're not the cook. The quartermaster hates your face. You're not sure why, but every order comes with a side of yelling and a gesture that's definitely not a compliment. You've just finished breakfast, if that's what we're calling the indestructible biscuit, and you already smell like you've been working for 3 hours, which, to be fair, you have. Time loses its grip out here. One task slides into another like waves across the deck, and your day unfolds not in hours, but in chores. Next up, sails. The wind is shifting, which means the sails must shift, which means you're climbing something. You don't like climbing something, but you do it anyway. The rigging looms above you like a spider's nightmare ropes, crisscrossing flapping lines, and little places to put your feet that feel like suggestions rather than guarantees. The mast sways beneath your hands, a lazy back and forth that seems playful until you're halfway up and realize the playmate is gravity. Go on. Someone below calls. It won't bite. That's a lie. You already have rope burn from last week. The rigging bites. It gnaws. It judges. You climb. Hand over hand you rise above the deck, the world growing smaller, the horizon stretching wider. Below you, the ship is all noise and motion. Up here, it's quieter, except for the creak of the ropes, the flap of the canvas, and the slow, steady thump of your heartbeat in your ears. Your fingers find the crossbeam. You swing a leg over, trying not to look down. You try not to look up either, because there's a seagull watching you, judging you. You reach the sail. It's billowing wrong, tangled on itself like a sulking curtain. You pull, then you swear, then you pull again. Historians still argue how much the average pirate knew about actual sailing. Some were former Navy. Others were farmers, thieves, or just really persuasive drinkers. But once you're on board, you learn fast. Because wind doesn't wait, and sails don't fix themselves. You fight the canvas. It slaps you. You fight back. Eventually, like two grumpy dancers forced into rhythm, you and the sail reach an understanding. It flutters into place. The ship responds, a slow shift in motion, a nod of approval. You cling there for a moment, wind in your face, salt on your lips, sweat dripping from your chin. It should feel triumphant. It mostly feels like vertigo. You descend, joints, aching arms, trembling from the effort. Someone hands you a mug of water that tastes faintly of rope. You drink it anyway. Below deck, someone's singing again. Always singing, a different tune this time. Something about a lady with seaweed for hair. You hum along as you coil rope your hands, moving on instinct now. There's no break between jobs. No neat little calendar squares marked you time. Life on a pirate ship is a loop of labor, each task leading into the next like links in a salty, sweaty chain. A plank needs mending, a rope needs splicing, a barrel needs securing before it rolls into the captain's shins again. The days blend, and so do the jobs. Still, there's a rhythm to it. Pull, tie, coil, repeat, a kind of sea-born choreography. Pirates might have been chaotic, but their ships weren't. A ship demanded order, or it sank, and nobody liked sinking. One historian once described pirate ships as floating paradoxes, lawless societies built on rigid discipline. You're free until it's time to hoist something. Then you better hoist like your rum rations depend on it. They do. You work until your back hums like a plucked string, and your hands forget what smoothness feels like. At some point, someone throws you half an orange. You eat it like a man possessed. It tastes like sunshine and vague hope. Then it's back to the ropes, back to the grind, back to the quiet knowledge that this endless web of mundane labor is what keeps you afloat. And you'd better get used to it, because you're not the captain. You're not even close. The toilet situation deserves its own section. You meet the head, a hole, a breeze, and an overwhelming sense of exposure to both nature and judgment. The shouting begins just before noon. Not battle cries, not mutiny. Just the usual, "Where's the goat?" And that's your cue. You freeze mid-task, hands still wrapped around a coil of rope, one foot hooked lazily against a barrel, and let your gaze sweep across the deck. There's no goat in sight, which is exactly the problem. See, the ship has a goat, or rather, the goat has the ship. Her name is Judith, and she is by all accounts the most respected and feared member of the crew who doesn't wear boots. She arrived with a previous raid meant to be food, and then wasn't, then was again, then bit someone important. Now she's just here, existing, watching, judging. Somehow she always escapes. You sigh, abandon your rope, and join the impromptu goat hunting party already underway. Pirates are scanning behind barrels, lifting tarps, checking under hammocks. One swears he saw her near the mizzenmast. Another claims she was sipping rainwater out of a boot. You check below deck. The smell hits first. Warm, musty, a little sour. Not unlike your bunkmate, but with more determination. You crouch low and move past crates and hammocks, eyes adjusting to the gloom. They're there, behind a sack of potatoes that are more eyes than potato. Now you catch movement, a twitch, a hoof. You freeze. Judith stares back at you. Neither of you moves. There's a silent understanding here, a battle of wills. She chews slowly, as if mocking the entire concept of urgency. "Come on," you whisper. "Don't make me carry you again." Historians still argue whether goats were common on pirate ships. Some suggest they were kept for milk or meat. Others think they were simply stowaways with attitude problems. What we do know is ship life was full of animals. Chickens, rats, parrots, and occasionally someone's emotional support pig. You step forward. Judith bolts. What follows cannot be described as graceful. You trip over a bucket. She leaps over a crate. Someone yelps upstairs. A bowl crashes. A parrot screams. Thief, which isn't helpful. Finally, after a dramatic chase that involves a ladder, a net, and two very confused rats, you corner her near the galley. She's chewing on a map. You retrieve what's left, gently pat her side, and lead her upstairs by a rope you're not entirely sure she hasn't already chewed through. The crew cheers when she appears. Someone tosses her an apple. She ignores it. Judith doesn't do tricks. She simply is. And despite the chaos, there's a weird sort of affection in the air. Like having a stubborn goat on board somehow makes things feel more human. You let her wander, then collapse against a barrel, breathless. The sun is hot now, baking the deck until it smells of tar and sweat. You squint upward. The sails are full. The ship groans and creaks and lurches gently forward, always moving, never pausing. Just like you. Lunch is still hours away, but Judith's safe, for now. Sail duty, it's arm day, every day. Hauling sail lines sounds romantic until your palms bleed and the sun forgets to clock out. Lunch is a rumor, a whispered legend. You've heard it might be salted fish today, or maybe yesterday's stew repurposed with new lies and fewer bones. Either way, it's not here yet. And before you can even daydream about slightly warm broth, there's more work, always more work. Now it's sail duty again. The wind has changed. Again, it does that. And when it does, the sails don't politely adjust themselves. They bellow and snap and flap like furious ghosts. And it's your job, yes, yours again, to fix them. You grab the nearest rope fingers, already aching from the memory of the last time you did this. The rope's wet. Everything's wet. Even the things that shouldn't be. You tug anyway. You brace. You pull. You heave with your whole body like a very determined laundry line. It doesn't budge. The quartermaster calls down something about less noodle arms, more effort. You pretend not to hear. A crewmate joins you. You don't exchange names, just nods. That's enough. Together you pull again, timing it with the sway of the ship. The sail catches, inflates, slaps, then finally settles into shape, billowing with satisfaction like a proud parent. Your shoulders ache. Your back whines. Your palms are raw. Historians agree pirate ships were physically brutal environments. The sails alone could weigh hundreds of pounds, especially when soaked with rain. Handling them wasn't just about strength. It was timing, teamwork, and luck. Lose your grip at the wrong moment and you could find yourself swinging from the rigging or flung into the sea. You haven't gone overboard yet. You coil the rope again and glance at your hands. Calluses, forming over calluses. A fresh rope burn across the heel of your thumb. You flex your fingers. They crackle like old floorboards. Someone nearby groans and flops to the deck, claiming their arms have staged a rebellion. You laugh, weakly. Then you haul another rope. Pirate fitness, you realize, isn't glamorous. There's no gym, no protein shakes, no form checks. Just survival. You work. You sweat. You hope your shoulder doesn't pop out again. Once you watched a man tear his pants mid-haul and finish the job anyway. Dignity is optional here. The sun is higher now, bleeding heat across the deck. The sails ripple above like vast, lazy lungs. Everything smells of salt rope and a faint hint of foot. You rest for a moment, leaning against the main mast. Wind whistles past your ears. Somewhere below deck, Judith, the goat, lets out a bored bleat. There's a stillness just for a moment, then brace the foresail. Of course, back to work. Someone stole your rumma. Again. You're pretty sure it was the one-eyed guy with the pet rat, but confronting him seems like a poor choice. You're below deck now, lungs grateful for the shade. Even if the air is thick and musty like soup, someone forgot to stop cooking. The ceiling is low, so you stoop walking like a question mark. Your job. Barrel rotation. Exciting, right? Every few days, barrels have to be turned to prevent moisture from pooling, or to check for swelling signs of leaking fermenting or possibly explosive mischief, especially with the rum, or the gunpowder, or the barrel with no label, which everyone assumes is cursed and no one dares open. You kneel beside one, brace your back, and push. It grumbles. Your knees do too. It rolls an inch, maybe two. You adjust your stance, plant your feet, then heave again. The barrel finally rolls, revealing a bottom crusted with something sticky. Could be pitch, could be syrup, could be melted rat. You don't ask. Just move on. The cargo hold is a dim maze of crates, coils of rope, and swinging lanterns. Light flickers off wood and sweat-slick faces. Around you, other crew members mutter and grunt, all engaged in similarly glamorous tasks, checking rat traps, realigning cannonballs, repositioning buckets. You pass a man sleeping atop a crate of onions, his hat over his eyes, and one boot off. He stirs as you walk by, sniffs, then mutters something about dancing octopuses. You don't disturb him. He's earned it. Historians still argue whether pirates were more hygienic than the average 18th century civilian. Some evidence suggests pirate ships were cleaner than merchant vessels. They had to be. Disease spread fast in close quarters. Other sources claim pirates rarely bathed, brushed, or changed their socks. The truth is probably both. Clean-ish in places, a disaster in others. You dodge a low beam, almost lose your balance, then catch yourself on a barrel labeled biscuits. You shudder, the weevil bread again. Your teeth ache in anticipation. You sit for a moment, just a moment, back resting against the wood. The floor is vibrating gently beneath you, the constant hum of motion. The ship never stops moving. Neither do you. Somewhere behind you, Judith bleats. Again. Of course she's here. The cargo hold is cool and dark and stocked with things she is definitely not supposed to eat. You sigh, stand, continue rotating. This is what life on a pirate ship looks like. Not treasure, not sword fights, not declarations of vengeance at sunset. It's you, rolling barrels in the dark, trying not to fall asleep, standing up. You finish the row. Your shirt is soaked. Your back feels like a twisted sail. You wipe your forehead and leave a streak of something unidentifiable, probably biscuit dust, possibly goat. And above you, the creaking continues. The sea never stops. Neither do you. Pirate hygiene is a group project. Bathing is rare, and you learn fast that smelling only mildly offensive is a social victory. Back on deck, the sun has shifted slanting golden through torn clouds. It's that magical hour when shadows stretch long and everything glows like it's been dipped in honey, except you, because you are sweat-slicked, rope burned, and smell faintly of goat. The captain's nowhere in sight, which is perfect because this is the one time in the day when things briefly slow down. You lean against the railing elbows, resting on sun-warmed wood, and look out. Water, just endless water. Blue-gray with streaks of silver. Small waves lapping as if the sea's trying to whisper secrets it forgot halfway through. Somewhere far off, a gull squawks, then instantly regrets it and flies in the opposite direction. You get it, gull. You really do. You breathe in. Salty, damp air fills your chest. There's no land in sight. No sails on the horizon. Just you and the endless pulsing breath of the ocean. Someone plays a tune on a pipe behind you. It's off-key, wandering, hesitant, but somehow perfect, melancholy, wrapped in salt. It's in these rare moments between goat chases and biscuit horror that you remember this is freedom, sort of. No landlords, no lords even. No one demanding grain you don't have or punishing you for fishing in the wrong pond. Just the ocean and the pirates and the slight chance of falling overboard and being left behind. But let's not dwell. Historians still debate whether pirates were truly democratic or just better at pretending. Captains were often elected, and shares of loot were more equal than in Navy ranks. But power still clung to certain voices, and luck played its part. Still, for many, this floating mess of splinters and songs was better than anything they'd left behind. You tilt your head, let the wind play with your hair. It tangles instantly. You make peace with that. Someone offers you dried fruit. You accept without question. It's chewy and vaguely orange. It might not be fruit at all, but it's sweet and doesn't bite you back. That's enough. Your crewmate nods at the sea and says, "Looks moody." You nod back as if the ocean's temperament is a thing to be discussed, like gossip at a village well. The clouds shift again. The golden glow fades, traded for something cooler, quieter. Shadows settle. A gull lands on the rail next to you. It eyes you, You eye it. It poops, then leaves. The moment is over. Back to reality. You straighten, adjust your belt, and prepare yourself for whatever comes next. More rope. Another goat crisis. Some poor fool falling into a barrel. Doesn't matter. You're here. You're part of this strange drifting world. And for now, the sea holds you close. Music dice and mild. Existentialism. Entertainment consists of off-key sea shanties, cheating at dice, and wondering if mermaids judge your life choices. Dinner arrives with all the fanfare of a dying accordion. You hear the clatter before you see it. Wooden bowls, mismatched spoons, a thud of something landing with unfortunate density in the pot. The cook, a man with a beard like tangled rope and a voice like boiled gravel, yells out the word gruel like it's a threat. You line up. Everyone lines up. Because no matter how bad it is, it's all there is. You clutch your bowl with two hands the way you might cradle something sacred or suspicious. The ladle hits the pot with a squelch. Steam rises. It smells like damp toast and regret. You take it anyway. You always do. The gruel is thick, not porridge thick wall, paste thick. It jiggles slightly when you set it down, like it's contemplating escape. You poke it with your spoon. It pushes back. You take a bite. It's warm. It's salty. It's possibly alive. And yet you eat. Historians agree that pirate meals were not glamorous. Most ships carried dried beans, hardtack salted meat, and whatever vegetables could survive the humidity for a few weeks. Fresh food was rare. Spices were gold. A bit of lemon could earn you a marriage proposal. And if you were lucky, dinner didn't bite back. A crewmate across from you claims to have found a weevil in his stew. He names it Maurice. You keep eating. Dinner on a pirate ship is less about cuisine and more about camaraderie. Jokes pass between chews. Someone tells a story about a haunted compass. Another tries to recite poetry and forgets halfway through. The laughter is tired, but real. You laugh too, half from humor, half from calories, finally hitting your bloodstream. The air grows heavier as the sun fades. A few lanterns swing overhead, casting soft halos of light that make everyone look a little more ghostly than usual. You finish your bowl and wipe it out with a hunk of hard biscuit, scraping the last bits like treasure. Then you rinse it with seawater. Not ideal, but neither are you. After dinner, a few pirates pull out dice. Others mend clothes. One man tries to compose a sea shanty about Judith the goat. It's not great, but it rhymes. Mostly. You sit back, your stomach full, in the way a wooden box is full of rocks, heavy, but not happy. You lean against a barrel and close your eyes for a moment, letting the sounds of the ship lull you into something soft and half asleep. Footsteps thump past. A rat scurries nearby. The dice clatter again. Someone begins to hum. You drift, just for a moment, because soon it will be time for the night watch. And there's no such thing as sleeping through your shift. Not unless you want to wake up wet, tied to a post, or inexplicably missing an eyebrow. That time we didn't find treasure. You dig, you sweat, you curse, and all you get is a rusty spoon and a crab with attitude. Night has fully settled, and with it comes the rotation of watch. You are, of course, on it, because the universe in all its salty wisdom has decided that your eyelids aren't allowed to meet yet. Not tonight. You stand at your post near the bow, wrapped in your thin cloak, the chill creeping through like curious fingers. The sea is darker now, almost black, but still restless. The moon offers a few slivers of light, enough to catch the glint of waves and the occasional swoop of something winged and silent. You shift your weight from one foot to the other and wait and yawn and wait. Night watch is both everything and nothing. You are a lookout, a guardian of the dark, a half-asleep sentinel, scanning the empty sea for shapes that shouldn't be there. Other ships, sudden rocks, suspicious fog, mermaids with a grudge. You squint into the nothingness and try to keep your mind from wandering too far. Beside you, another pirate hums low and tuneless. A comfort sound, maybe. Or maybe they're just trying to stay awake, like you. You glance up at the rigging rope's slack sails, heavy with dew. The stars above are the only things truly alert tonight, blinking down like quiet gods. Historians still argue whether pirates followed specific star charts or just winged it. Some had trained navigators who used sextants and compasses. Others relied on luck ocean swells and following the coastline while trying not to die. You personally can name 3 stars, that one the bright one, and probably not a star. The wind shifts. You sniff. Something smells. Sweet. You turn. It's Judith. Of course. She's eaten someone's fruit stash and now stands next to a barrel, chewing like a sage, lost in thought. You consider saying something, then decide against it. Because what would you even say? Please stop being an enigma. The boat creaks under your feet. Wood flexes, nails groan. This ship, held together by tar and curses, rocks steadily forward. You adjust your stance, arms folded, now breath ghosting in the cold air. Night watch is long, quiet, boring, mostly. But there's something beautiful in it, something weirdly sacred. The hush, the closeness of the sea, the sense that out here away from land and rules and clocks, you're a different creature entirely. Half shadow, half salt, with a job no one sees and no one praises. You doze for a second, maybe 2, before a crewmate nudges you. You jolt back awake, nod like you were definitely not asleep. Then resume your noble post of standing upright and pretending to see things. You last 2 more hours. Then your shift ends, and your bones, rebellious and grateful, carry you below deck, where, if you're lucky, no one is snoring too loudly. The sky is pretty. That's free. Despite everything, sometimes you look up and feel small, in a good way, like maybe the stars forgot to be cruel. You collapse onto your hammock like a sack of bruised potatoes. It creaks beneath you, sways gently, then settles into the familiar cradle of exhaustion. The fabric is coarse, but after a day of rope sails, gruel, and goat drama, it may as well be a throne carved from clouds. You exhale, a long one. Above you, a crewman snores like a dying walrus. To your left, someone mutters in their sleep, something about treasure or trousers, possibly both. You don't mind. Noise becomes background here, part of the rhythm, like the ship's groan or the slap of waves on wood. It lulls you instead of irritating, the way a lullaby repeats until it fades into dream. You roll slightly, pressing your shoulder into the hammock's curve. Your hands still ache. Your knees remind you they exist. Every inch of your body feels used, but in a good way, in a somehow still alive kind of way. Historians note that pirate sleeping quarters were tight crowded and often shared. Privacy was a concept left on shore. Most sailors slept in hammocks because they didn't roll with the ship and didn't attract as many pests. Still, sleep was light and easily interrupted storms, orders rats, or the occasional duel over snoring. Your feet poke out from the end of the hammock. The air there is cooler, laced with tar and seawater. You stretch your toes, then curl them again. You're asleep for maybe 4 minutes before someone stumbles into the cabin and drops a bucket. Loudly, you jolt. Someone curses in French. Someone else groans. You sigh. This is normal. After the noise dies down, you settle again. A deep breath, in, out. The hammock sways just slightly, rocking you in a rhythm older than language. Outside, the ship creaks like a sleeping beast. Water sloshes. Judith bleats once in the distance, as if to say, "I'm still here." Of course she is. You close your eyes again. Drift. Dream. Of land, maybe. Of actual beds. Of bread with no crunch. Or maybe you dream of nothing at all, because in this moment, after all that work, even dreaming feels like too much effort. You're definitely not the surgeon, but that doesn't stop people from asking you to hold things, sew things, or stop things from leaking. Morning returns with a splash, literally. You wake mid-swing, your hammock jerking, just as a cold splash of seawater hits your face. It takes a second to realize it's not rain. It's Wilson. He's cleaning with gusto and no regard for personal boundaries. You groan. He shrugs. Better than rats, he says, sloshing another bucket of salt water across the floorboard. You sit up dripping and offended. Everything is damp. Your tunic, your blanket, your dreams. You wring out your hair, which now smells faintly of brine and injustice. Welcome to another glorious day aboard the ship. Breakfast is served, if you can call it that. A hunk of ship biscuit. You tap it on the table to check it won't break a tooth. a sliver of what might be cheese, and a mug of something hot brown and barely distinguishable from bilge water. But it's warm, and yours. You eat while standing. Sitting would mean sharing a crate with the guy who talks to his spoon. Again. The ship lurches. You sway with it. Today you've been assigned to sail maintenance, which means climbing, which means ropes. You sigh and head up. Historians agree the rigging was no joke. A pirate ship's sails were its lifeblood, and keeping them functioning was a full-time task. Ropes frayed, pulleys jammed, birds nested in unfortunate places. Crew members climbed with knives in their teeth and curses on their lips. You ascend slowly, the rope ladder swaying with the rhythm of the waves. Below the deck grows smaller. Your hands burn with each knot you grip. Your arms complain. So do your thighs. But up you go. The crow's nest greets you with a breeze and a view that's almost poetic. The sea unfolds in every direction, flat and endless, stitched with foam. You rest for a breath. Let the wind cool your face. Then back to work. You inspect the sail. There's a tear flapping like a lazy flag. You pull out a needle the size of a dagger and begin the careful, maddening task of stitching canvas. 1 loop, 2, a splinter, 3. The sun climbs behind you, heating your shoulders. A gull lands nearby, eyes you, waits, poops, leaves. You are not surprised. Far below, someone shouts about Judith eating something unidentifiable. Also, not surprising. You finish your mending tie off the end and descend like a hero returning from a very specific kind of war. On deck, you're greeted with a nod, a grunt, and half a peeled apple. You accept all 3 graciously. Because here, that counts as praise. Everyone has a tattoo. Regret, even you, especially you. No one talks about it, but everyone judges in silence. Afternoon slides in slow and humid, like a lazy cat settling onto your chest when you're already overheated. The sun hangs above like it's been nailed there on purpose, hot, smug, and entirely unwilling to move. The deck has warmed into a frying pan. You can feel the heat rising through the soles of your boots. Somewhere, a bucket of tar begins to bubble like it's trying to cook itself. You do what everyone else does this time of day. You slow down, not stop. There's no such thing on a pirate ship unless you're unconscious or very convincingly pretending to be. But the pace softens. Sweeping becomes half-hearted. Sail checks are more like sail glances. And even Judith has tucked herself under some shade, chewing on rope like a pacifier. You find a bit of shadow near the mainmast and sink down beside it. Your shirt sticks to your back. Your brain feels like overcooked porridge. So you sit and breathe and swat away flies like a dignified noble of the high seas. Historians still debate whether pirates had designated rest periods or just took micro naps between disasters. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. When there were no enemies, storms, or onboard accidents to handle crews, grabbed slivers of rest wherever they could, one eye open, one hand near a weapon, both feet ready to run. You're not worried about running today. The sea is calm, the sky mostly cloudless, and no one screamed in over an hour. That's practically a holiday. You hear laughter, real laughter, from the other side of the ship. A card game has broken out. Coins clink. Someone swears with flair. Someone else sings 2 lines of a sea shanty before forgetting the rest and humming tunelessly. You almost join in. Almost. But your legs are made of pudding, and your brain is performing only basic functions, heartbeat blinking biscuit evaluation. Instead, you trace knots in the wood beside you. They're old, smoothed by decades of boots and elbows. You imagine the stories pressed into each one, the storms they've endured, the arguments, the quiet, bored afternoons like this. A crewmate flops down beside you, hands behind his head. He doesn't say a word, just closes his eyes and sighs. You mimic him, letting the tension melt from your neck and shoulders. The breeze brushes your cheek like a tired lullaby. For a minute everything stills. It's easy to forget in this moment that you're a pirate, that your life is mostly work and salt and biscuits, older than you are. Right now, you're just a person on a boat in a vast blue silence under a sun that for once isn't trying to kill you. You might even fall asleep here, but only for a minute, because goats don't nap. And Judith is quietly approaching someone's hat like it owes her money. Storms don't care about your feelings. Lightning cracks the ship, groans, and suddenly you believe in every sea ghost story you ever heard. The calm never lasts. No sooner have you let your eyes droop in the lazy warmth of the afternoon than a voice yells, sails from the crow's nest. You don't move at first. It could be a drill, or a hallucination, or that one crewmate who yells things just to see who panics first. But then comes the flurry boots, stomping ropes, whipping the captain's voice sharp and clear. Prepare for approach. You groan. You were just about to reach the good part of your nap where your feet stop existing. Still, you scramble to your feet and move, pulled along in the current of rushing pirates. Up on deck, the heat is thicker now, excitement mingling with the air like spice. Off in the distance, yes, sails. Small, low, merchant ship, maybe. You squint through the shimmer. Historians agree, pirates often targeted merchant ships because they were slower, softer, and less likely to put up a serious fight. Easier cargo, fewer injuries. The pirate version of picking the donut with the softest center. Of course, that doesn't make it easy. Your role today, ramming prep, which involves brace yourself lifting barrels. Not glamorous, not legendary, but essential. The barrels act as ballast or sometimes barricades, depending on how close you get. You hoist, roll, and wedge with the rest of the crew. Sweat stings your eyes. The deck shifts underfoot. Someone sings out again, different tone now. Closer. You glance up. Yes, the other ship is drifting into view, and fast. Tension creeps in. The joking fades. Everyone moves faster, but tighter. focused. You check your knife, not because you plan to use it. You're not even sure you could stab someone intentionally without apologizing, but because checking it makes you feel like a real pirate. Then comes the signal, not a loud trumpet or cannon blast, just a flick of the captain's hand. And suddenly, like a school of angry fish, you surge forward. You don't board the other ship. Not today. They see you, see the skulls, the flags, the movement, and veer off. A cowardly swerve. Probably wise. Some boo. One crewmate throws a potato, which falls tragically short. But you're relieved, because no one dies today. And you still have half a biscuit in your pocket. Instead, you turn. The sails adjust. The ship leans into the wind again, resuming its lazy crawl across the sea like nothing happened. Back to regular programming. Back to sweat and goats and awkwardly timed naps. But for a moment, just one moment, you felt like a real pirate. Dangerous, feared with the sun at your back and the wind in your teeth. Even if your job was barrels, parrots, cats, and emotional support. Crabs, animals aboard, aren't pets. They're co-workers, loud, judgy, and always stealing your food. Evening settles like a heavy wool cloak. The sea darkens, turning from slate to ink. The air cools thick with the scent of salt sweat, and tonight's questionable stew bubbling below deck. The deck creaks beneath your boots. As you move slowly, your limbs weary, but still obedient. You've earned your aches today. Dinner is simple, again. Some stew more broth than substance, flavored with fish, onion, and what might be yesterday's biscuit, if you squint. You eat sitting cross-legged on the deck, your bowl warming your hands as you watch the last rays of sun drip into the horizon. Judith watches too, her face very close to yours, hoping you'll blink and drop something. You do not. You're too tired for that game tonight. Historians tell us that pirate meals were deeply unromantic. Food was often preserved, salted meat, dried peas, and whatever could survive a long sea voyage without attracting mold or mutiny. Fresh ingredients were rare and prized. When meat was gone, rats were considered. Boiled leather in extreme cases. Pirates may have had wild reputations, but their stomachs told a far more humble tale. You scrape your bowl clean and rise with a soft grunt. Another crewmate takes your spot, slurping loudly. The sky overhead is now dotted with stars, bright and careless. You pause, tilt your head, think how long has it been since you saw land. You try to count, lose track, shrug. It doesn't matter. Time stretches out at sea. One day blurs into the next like brush strokes on a damp canvas. You measure life in chores, sales, and how many biscuits remain before someone panics. If pirates feared anything, it wasn't storm or sword, it was hunger. Tonight you're assigned to cleaning weapons. Again. A task that involves sitting cross-legged in the lamplight and scrubbing rust from blades that haven't been properly cared for since the last raid. Most of them look mean. A few look decorative. One is just a sharpened spoon tied to a stick. You polish quietly, the rhythmic scrape oddly soothing. The sounds of the ship at night wrap around you. Footsteps on wood, low murmurs the hush of waves against the hull. A crewmate settles beside you, oiling a pistol and humming the same off-key tune they always hum. You nod to each other. This is as close to peace as pirates get. There's comfort in this repetition. Clean oil, sharpen. Clean oil, sharpen. Sometimes someone adds a name to their blade scratched in with a nail or the tip of a knife. You've thought of doing it. You even picked a name, Mildred. Something about it felt right. Underwhelming, unapologetically unimpressive, but also dependable. You smile to yourself. Mildred, queen of butter knives. You stack the finished weapons neatly and stretch your legs. The stars above are clearer now, the sky velvet and kind. You find your usual spot near the rail and lean forward, resting your elbows, watching the endless roll of sea. There's no moon tonight, just that deep ancient dark. Historians still argue whether pirates believed in omens. Some say yes, sailors were notoriously superstitious, spotting bad luck in everything from spilled salt to left-footed boarding. Others claim pirates were more pragmatic. If something went wrong, it was blamed on the weather or a crewmate named Barry. You don't believe in omens, not really, but still, you knock wood once, just in case. You stay at the rail longer than usual, thinking about your feet, your family, your strange and crusty community of goat-loving lunatics. You wonder what people back home would think if they saw you now, bruised, sunburnt, picking biscuit out of your teeth with a knife you've nicknamed Mildred. Probably they'd faint, or laugh, or both. You're not the same person who boarded this ship. You smell different. You speak differently. You carry yourself like someone who's learned the rhythm of the waves and doesn't need solid ground to feel steady. And weirdly, that feels like something to be proud of. You're not famous. You're not rich. You're not the captain. But you're still here. And in pirate math, that counts as winning. Shore leave, mud ale, and terrible choices. Your one day off involves bad beer, worse decisions, and possibly getting kicked by a goat. Night deepens, and the ship exhales. The sails flap lazily, their canvas breathing in rhythm with the waves. Most of the crew is below deck now, tucked into hammocks or slumped in corners, boots still on, snoring into the planks. The oil lanterns flicker, casting long shadows that sway like drunken ghosts across the beams. You're still topside, assigned to the night watch. Lucky you, your job. Don't fall asleep, don't fall overboard. And if you see something strange, like a sail or a kraken, or Judith trying to push open the rum barrel, again, ring the bell. Mostly you just stare into darkness. Historians agree that pirate night watches were deadly boring, unless they weren't. The ocean didn't follow schedules. Enemy ships, storms, even rogue whales showed up when they felt like it. So, while most shifts passed in half-lidded silence, every now and then, something happened that would make a bard drop their lute. Tonight doesn't feel like a bard night. It feels still. The ship creaks. Water slaps gently against the hull. In the crow's nest above you, a shadow shifts and coughs. That's Collins. He's up there because he has excellent eyes and a terrible singing voice. You pace slowly, your boots soft against the damp planks. Something glows faintly phosphorescent. A trail of light left in the water where the hull cuts through microscopic sea life. It's beautiful, otherworldly. The ship leaves a ghost wake behind it, like a dream that refuses to fade. You lean over and watch it shimmer. A crewmate stirs nearby, murmurs something about flying jellyfish. You nod. Sure. Why not? Sleep deprivation will do that. You pull your coat tighter. The breeze has teeth now, cool and damp and creeping up your sleeves. You spot Judith curled under a coil of rope, snoring lightly, a tiny bubble rising from her nose with every exhale. Even goats dream. The stars are still there, watching. You trace constellations, not because you know them, but because it feels like the right thing to do. There's the frying pan, the lopsided chair, and that one that looks like a really concerned octopus. Your thoughts wander, not far, just sideways. You think about the time that crewmate tried to shave using a fish bone, about the argument over whether rats or gulls were smarter, about the long, weird silence that followed someone's discovery of a perfectly preserved pickle from the last port stop. No one ate it. No one dared. You chuckle softly. This is your life now. A mix of tedium tangles and the occasional terrifying cannonball. Historians still argue whether pirate crews were closer than family or simply tolerated each other out of necessity. Truth is, it's both. You can't survive this long on a boat without learning how to yell at someone and still pass them the soap an hour later. You settle onto a crate, wrap yourself in your cloak, and rest your chin in your hands. Eyes open, just. Every so often you blink slowly and whisper, still awake, out loud, to no one, just to prove it. The bell remains untouched. The sky remains huge, and you remain mostly alert. You'll trade shifts in an hour. Until then, it's you, the stars, and Mildred hasn't blinked once. Mutiny, not just for the drama queens. Sometimes you wonder if taking over the ship is worth it. Then remember, you'd have to do the captain's paperwork. The bell rings soft and low. Your watch is over. You stretch your arms above your head, joints cracking like old wood in the cold, and descend the steps with the weary pride of someone who didn't fall asleep and didn't let the goat get into anything explosive. Victory. Below deck, the air is thick, damp with breath salt and the faint smell of socks that gave up years ago. The lanterns burn low, here, flickering orange across rows of hammocks. You duck under low beams, tiptoe past snorers and find your own swinging nest, a canvas sling that has probably seen more storms than you have. You climb in awkwardly, one leg, then the other. Your body sighs, muscles melt. The hammock holds you like a half-forgotten lullaby. It sways gently in rhythm with the ship, with the waves, with your heartbeat. Historians agree hammocks were a stroke of genius. Pirates didn't invent them, indigenous peoples of South America did, but pirates embraced them. They kept sailors from rolling off onto the floor in rough seas and took up less space than cots. Practical, efficient, surprisingly cozy. You shift once, twice, then settle. Your boots stay on. Everyone's boots stay on. It's not a trust issue. It's a cold toes issue. Also, in case something explodes, around you, sleep hums. A low chorus of snores, breath the occasional muttered dream. One crewmate insists they once heard a man recite an entire fish recipe in his sleep. Start with a clean, sharp blade. You stare up at the wooden ceiling above just inches from your face. There's a message scratched into it, crudely carved with a nail or a very committed spoon. Never trust a man who smiles at storms. Sage. You blink slowly. Let your arms go slack. Your fingers tingle with leftover rope burn. Your ribs ache in that way they do when you've laughed too hard earlier. Someone had tried to sing a love ballad to the biscuit barrel again. It didn't go well. Still, moments like that make the long days bearable. You think about the next port. Fresh fruit, a real bed, a place where the soup isn't named whatever we found, but you don't want to rush it. There's something strange about this floating world. It's rough, sure, loud, cramped, occasionally a bit bloody, but it's honest. Everything squeaks and smells and demands more of you than you think you have, but it's real. Historians still debate what drove people to choose this life path. Some say desperation. Others say wanderlust. A few argue it was the allure of democracy. Pirate ships often voted on leadership shared plunder and made group decisions more fairly than most governments of the time. You think maybe it's simpler. Some people just wanted to belong somewhere, even if that somewhere had weevils, even if it smelled like goat and regret, even if it meant swinging from canvas with your boots on your knife tucked under your arm and your dreams tasting faintly of salt. Your breath evens out. Your eyes grow heavy. Your mind drifts not into dreams yet, but into that in-between space where thoughts blur and the creak of wood becomes music. You hear the water slap gently against the hull. You hear someone mumble about pickles again. And somewhere nearby Judith sighs in her sleep. You smile in the dark. Tomorrow will be loud again. But tonight is quiet. And that's enough. You have so many blisters. Your hands, your feet, your soul. They all have calluses now, and none of them asked for it. Morning stirs before the sun does. You feel it in the shift of the ship, the subtle realignment of weight and current, the way the creaks adjust pitch. There's a soft thump as someone drops a bucket, a muttered curse, the unmistakable bleat of Judith announcing her opinion on breakfast. You groan, stretch. Your spine protests like an old door, and your hammock sways lazily, reluctant to let you go. But there's no use pretending. You're awake. You drop out of the sling with all the grace of a sack of onions, landing in a crouch with your knife in one boot and one eye still sealed shut with sleep. The deck is cool underfoot. Your breath clouds slightly in the stale air. Time to face another day of glamour and gold. Or more realistically, ropes and biscuits. Historians tell us pirate mornings began with chores. Real ones, not dramatic swashbuckling or shouting orders. We're talking scraping barnacles, mending sails, and trying to scrub the mysterious orange substance off the anchor winch. No one knows what it is. It wasn't there yesterday. It's better not to ask. Today's assignment, swabbing. Classic. You're handed a mop that has seen better centuries and pointed toward the bow, where someone dropped a barrel of something sticky at sunrise. You squint. It could be fish oil, could be syrup, could be revenge. Either way, it's your problem now. You begin to mop. The ship rocks gently as you work the rhythm. Almost musical scrub slide, rinse, repeat. Your arms settle into the pattern. Your feet find their sea stance. You hum a tune someone made up yesterday. Something about a goat who became captain and banned all spoons. It's catchy. A crewmate joins you also, armed with a mop. You nod at each other, the quiet solidarity of two warriors in the eternal battle against stickiness. As the sun rises, it floods the deck with warm gold. The sails light up like parchment held against a candle. The sky above turns a soft pastel blue, gentle, wide, forgiving. Judith ambles past and steps directly onto the patch you just finished. Of course she does. You mop again. By mid-morning, the deck smells marginally less like despair. A win. You're called over, next to help stitch a torn sail. Another crewmate is already there, needle in hand, grumbling about wind sprites and sabotage. You sit cross-legged beside them, threading cord through canvas fingers, raw but precise. It's slow work, but steady. Historians still argue whether pirates were better at repairs than the average Navy sailor. Some say yes, they had to make do without dry docks or spare parts. Others say no, because pirates weren't trained, just stubborn. You lean toward stubborn. It's amazing what you can fix when there's no other choice. By midday, the chores shift. Someone yells about fish. You and three others haul in a makeshift net, tied together with old rope and the remnants of a hammock. Inside, 3 silver fish, 1 boot, and a truly unsettling jellyfish that's gently pulsating in rhythm with the ship. You vote to name it Steve. Then you throw it back. Lunch is fish stew. No one asks if it's Steve. You eat while sitting on a coil of rope salt on your lips, sun on your shoulders. The wind hums through the rigging, playing the lines like strings on some strange sea instrument. The crew is quiet, chewing, squinting, stretching. Everyone's still sore from the almost raid. You're already thinking about the next one, not out of bloodlust, just pattern, routine, the rhythm of pirate life, calm, chase, clatter, silence, mop. It's exhausting and kind of beautiful. This life makes no sense. And yet, you're exhausted, bruised, weirdly happy, and still here, which is more than you expected. Afternoon rolls in with a bright, bloated sun and an air of suspicious calm. The sea has flattened into glass, and the ship glides so gently you could almost forget you're moving. Almost. A barrel creaks. A loose line taps lazily against a post. Someone coughs below deck, the sound sharp in the stillness. You're assigned lookout duty, not in the crow's nest, mercifully, but mid-deck pacing, with your eyes on the horizon. You chew a dry sliver of fruit as you scan the water for sails, birds, anything that moves. Nothing does, for now. Historians agree that piracy involved a lot of waiting. The in-between moments, between raids, between ports, between food, made up the bulk of pirate life. Long, uneventful stretches, punctuated by short bursts of danger or chaos. The reality wasn't cinematic. It was sleepy. It was sweaty. It smelled vaguely of moldy cheese. You step over a rope and duck under a flapping sail. A crewmate is napping in the sun, one hand over their eyes, the other dangling a bit of string for Judith, who's uninterested. She's sunbathing on a coil of rope like royalty. You sit nearby and sigh. Someone hums an old tune. Someone else picks their teeth with a nail. You let the breeze lick your face and lean back against the warm wood. For a moment, it feels like peace. Not luxury, not safety, but a kind of agreement between you and the sea. You'll tolerate each other today. A gull lands on the rail, eyes you, and squawks loudly, breaking the spell. You throw it a piece of your fruit. It looks offended and flies off. Even the birds here are dramatic. You're pulled from your thoughts by the captain's voice. He's gathering the crew for a vote. It's rare but not unheard of. Pirates often operated by a rough democracy, especially when it came to big decisions, changing course, choosing targets, electing officers. One vote, one voice, even yours. This time the question is simple. Follow that distant plume of smoke on the horizon, or steer away. The captain stands barefoot, hands on hips, squinting into the distance. He doesn't command. He asks. You cast your vote with a shrug. Smoke usually means fire. Fire usually means trouble. Trouble usually means gold. The vote is nearly split, but curiosity wins. You steer toward the smoke. The rest of the day is spent preparing just in case it's something. Loading pistols, sharpening blades, counting what little gunpowder remains. You clean Mildred again. She's starting to feel like a real weapon now. Historians still argue about the moral codes of pirate crews. Were they ruthless criminals or accidental rebels? Some ships had strict codes of conduct. Others operated on vibes and rum. Your crew's code is scrawled on a bit of sailcloth and includes clauses like no waking others with harmonica and goat gets first pick of sleeping spot. You nod. Reasonable. By dusk, the smoke has vanished. Just a trick of the wind, perhaps. You put everything away again. No raid, no fire. Just you and the rest of the tired crew, slightly more sunburned than this morning, slightly more suspicious of mirages. Still, the motion of preparing gave the day a pulse. It broke the quiet, and on this ship, that's sometimes enough. You sleep to the creak of wood and wind. At the end of it all, you sway gently in your hammock, listening to the sea, breathe under the hull. Evening comes softly, like a hush, drifting down from the sails. The sun dips low, a smoldering ember on the edge of the world. The sky blushes pink, then melts into violet. The sea mirrors it all, quiet still, a pool of sleeping fire. You stand at the rail, watching the horizon dissolve. Dinner is whatever was left from lunch, reheated in a blackened pot over a low flame. It smells of onions, salt, and possibility. You eat with your fingers, as always, perched next to a crewmate who's carving a spoon from driftwood. He's been doing it for 3 weeks. It still looks like a fish. You finish quickly, rinse your bowl in a barrel of seawater, and stash it with the others. It clinks softly against tin and bone. Judith snores under a tarp. The rest of the crew lounges stretched along benches or hunched in sleepy groups, speaking in murmurs, or not at all. There's no ceremony to bedtime on a pirate ship. You claim your hammock again, same spot, same height, same smell, and settle in with a sigh. Your boots hang over the edge. Your hands ache pleasantly. Your mind is beginning to slow. Historians say pirate ships didn't really sleep, not all at once. There was always someone on watch, always a creak, a groan, a gust. Sleep came in pieces, in pockets, like treasure if you're poetic, like crumbs if you're honest. You've gotten good at it, letting the sway of the ship rock your thoughts loose, letting the ocean noise blur the edges of your day. Tonight there's no raid, no storm, no mutiny, just the steady, lulling rhythm of water on wood and the comforting weight of nothing urgent. A crewmate snores in rhythm with the waves. You count it like sheep. Another begins to hum, not a shanty, but something softer. Wordless, a lullaby for pirates. You recognize it. No one knows where it came from. It's been sung on 3 ships now by 5 different people. Always at night. Always after the second bowl of stew. Judith sighs in her sleep, kicking once. You smile. You made it through another day. Not glorious, not easy, but real. Tomorrow will bring more rope, more sweat, more sunburns and scrapes and complaints about biscuits. And you'll meet it like you always do. Not because you're fearless, but because you've adapted. Pirates weren't legends. They were survivors. You're not the captain. You don't wear a hat with feathers or have a map to a cursed island. You're just a person, a face in the crew, hands that tie knots, eyes that scan the sea, a heart that despite everything beats slower now, here in the quiet. Historians still debate what made people stay aboard these ships. Was it freedom? Was it exile? Was it simply nowhere else to go? Maybe it doesn't matter. You're here, and tonight, that's enough. The ship creaks, the sea sighs, and you finally begin to drift. Let everything fall away now. The wind, gentle and sure, rocks the ship with the care of an old friend. It cradles your hammock like a lullaby. The ropes sway above you, casting soft shadows like sleepy vines. Lanterns, dim flickering, once, twice, then sinking into the dark. The world has gone quiet. The sea, still whispering, murmurs the same lull it's told for centuries. It speaks to the wood, to the sails, to your bones. You no longer need to listen. You simply feel it. A rhythm, a breath. Your muscles unwind. Your thoughts soften. There's no need to remember what the day held, only that it passed and you were carried through. Nothing is chasing you now. No orders barked. No plunder counted. No boots stomping down the deck. Just stillness. Just warmth. You curl into the sling of your hammock, every limb loose, your chest rising slow and even. Maybe your fingers still smell faintly of salt and rope. Maybe your shoulders still bear the memory of the sun. But the weight of it all is drifting away. There's no need to worry about where the ship is going. Not tonight. You're at sea, but also home. In the hush of the hull, in the sigh of the waves, in the soft breath of Judith sleeping nearby. Breathe deep and let go. Tomorrow will come, but it can wait. Sleep, sailor, sleep.